Hello, and welcome to Professor Steve. Uh, we were talking about worldview and science. I'll get into that in another video. I'll go back to that. But honestly, we're looking at worldview and how I became a Christian and all that jazz, and just so that you have an understanding of why we do what we do. Okay. So now the question is, see that panther hat? I love the panther hat. Okay. So where are we? Well, I was telling you how I believe you need to be consistent in how you look at things. So if you're going to, debunk Christianity, and a good book for you is a journalist who was not a Christian and set out to debunk Christianity and ended up becoming a Christian in the process, because he started realizing, wait a minute, there's more evidence than people really understand, and there actually is a lot of evidence. So, if you're so inclined to read a book, I don't know if there's an audio book, I would imagine, but this is a journalist named Lee Strobel, and it was life changing for him. But he had a book called A Case for Christ, and I thought it was a very interesting book myself. So where I want to go with the rest of this is you need to develop an understanding of how you look at the world. Okay, so we talked about religion and a relationship with Jesus, how that impacts me. Also, what impacts me too is my experience, right? Your experience impacts you a great deal. I look at single mothers differently. Okay, you know why? Because my mom was a single mother. So how we view things is based on our personal experience and our beliefs. But we develop those beliefs through our personal experience, right? So I look and I saw my mom working 2 and 3 jobs for 2 boys, and to maintain a house and to keep us in the stability, give us stability. And she was very sacrificial. And I remember how that affected me. And so when I see a single mother or an older mother going through difficulties, an older mother meaning like in their 60s, 70s, I'm inclined to do what I can to help, if I can. That impacts me pretty bad, or pretty big, I should say. If someone was a big movie at the time that we're recording this is The Sound of Freedom. That impacted me. If you haven't seen that, that is a phenomenal movie in the sense of how it brings awareness to human trafficking and how the evils done on children. Really sad. But we need to act on that sadness and not just say, wow, too bad. So where was I? Okay, that was a pretty big. So when I see those things, that affects me. If you lived through that kind of a trauma, that's going to affect you. Now, but here's what I would say. Okay, and this becomes, what are you going to do about it? You have experiences. Now, let's say you have really negative experiences. Maybe your parent abused you physically, verbally, emotionally, mentally, sexually, whatever it might be. Okay. I'm just going to say it. I'm fortunate. My mom didn't abuse me. My dad didn't abuse me. I didn't have an crazy uncle that abused me. I made it out. I'm a survivor of not having to go through that. I had my own pains, I had my own difficulties, and I can go in deep detail on those. I won't necessarily, because I don't think that's as valuable to you as if I did go through an experience like that. I think that'd be valuable to you to share. But I will say this: it's unfortunate that people have to go through those things. I will say this though: your trauma and whatever you're going through, somebody's gone through worse, and it may be like, wow, I've gone through a lot. I don't know. I don't think he knows what he's talking about. Trust me, there's always somebody who's gone through worse. The second thing I would say, not only has somebody gone through something worse, but somebody made it through that, survived that, is not defined by that. Their identity is not stored up in that. They chose not to be a victim. They went from victim to victor. They said, I'm not going to allow that to define me and to control who I am and to control me. I'm going to move forward in my life. Now, don't hear me as callous and don't hear me as uncaring about it. It's a difficult circumstance that you've gone through. And I don't know what you've gone through. And you say, but this. You can say, but whatever. But wouldn't you rather be the person that made it through and they said, wow, you made it through? I'll tell you what, I run a restaurant, okay? It's hot in South Florida. We have people taking orders outside. I would have people who would complain about taking orders out in the heat. Do I sympathize? I absolutely do. I really do. So we try to, make it so they weren't out there but an hour, and then there'd be a rotation, right? And there'd be people whining, teenagers, adults. And then I had this one girl. She'd go out there and we didn't make her do this. She'd said, I'd prefer to stay outside. And she stayed outside 8 hours at a time, 4 hours at a time. She would show up to work reliably. And you know when I found out? That girl was going through chemotherapy. She had some kind of, I think, a lupus or something like that. I don't know. She had some kind of debilitating disease. And her mom talked to me and said, hey, you know she's going through this? And I said, are you kidding me? So here's this girl who shows up to work every day reliably, doesn't want to miss work, needs the money. Doesn't complain and doesn't whine. She's going through all this. And then you got a teenager whose their biggest difficulty in life is to go outside for an hour where I work. But yet on Saturday they'll go to the beach and spend the whole day, 10 to 14 hours, sun tanning and being on the beach. In the heat, the same heat that they don't want to be out in, getting paid to be out in the heat. Now, granted, I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not getting down on them all, okay? But you have that choice. You can be that person that says, I'm not going to let life defeat me. I'm not going to let that pedophile win and control the rest of my life and put me into this victim mentality. See, that's a worldview. I'm going to be the victor. And you have that choice in everything you do. I've been blamed for things that I haven't done. You will be blamed for things that you have not done. I'm not going to spend all my life defending myself. I'm moving on, man. Keep on trucking. I don't have time for that. I don't have time for you if you don't believe me that I'm telling the truth, right? I don't have time to get on the witness stand and say I'm innocent. Sometimes you have to do those things, right? Sometimes you have to fight for it. But most of the time, okay, you're going to blame me for spilling a cup of ice. I don't care. I'll just clean it up. Um, I I'm going to take responsibility as much as I can, and I'm not going to let people abdicate their responsibility more than they should. Um, so when you're living, you you are who you are, and you will um, make your choices. But your choice to respond to how you've been hurt or trauma you've had to deal with is going to tell everybody about what kind of person you are now. And I want to be around people that are victors, not victims. Because victims, you always got a pat on the back and you got to say, oh, sorry. Nobody wants to be around that. Uh, Look, there are true victims in this world. I get it. But for you, do you want to be known as that? Do you want to be defined by what somebody did to you? Or do you want to be defined by what obstacles you overcame to achieve what you achieved? I think that's the better. So be a victor, not a victim. Over and out, 10-4, good buddy. Do marvelously well. Thank you.